There we go.
Daniel, good to see you. Quick turnaround, and I know there was ice baths being involved with Joe Rothwell and what have you, but yeah, is there anything you can say on the progress of players so quickly after a game, ahead of another game on a lunchtime?
No, what I can say is there is no injury concern, and more or less each and every player who was involved yesterday seems to be available, at least for the squad, also for this game. We had a few problems with Isaac Schmidt for the last game. He felt unwell. That was the reason he was not involved in the squad. He was also back in training today. It could be also a topic for the squad as well. So as it stands, I hope that I have more or less the whole group who was available, plus Isaac Schmidt, to pick from for the traveling squad. In terms of who is then more or less in the starting lineup, obviously, and who is also recovered after this game, we make them late decisions. So this turnaround obviously is a bit more tricky than the last turnaround. So last time from Sunday lunchtime till Wednesday evening, yes, we had more or less 80 hours to recover. That was enough. This time around, Wednesday evening till Saturday lunchtime, it's just over 60 hours. So it will be a bit more tricky. Also, traveling is involved, of course. So we'll also take some objective data, so some recovery data anyhow, and also tomorrow. So I think we'll pick the starting lineup for this game. Very late tomorrow evening, or perhaps even on the morning of the game. So some really late decisions.
I think the data is quite interesting here, Daniel, because you sort of opened up yesterday about your midfield conundrum, saying Joe Rothwell can't play every game if there's a quick turnaround, and you mentioned Ilya Gruev and Tanaka's first season. That dynamic between you, the analysts, and the medics, what's the tipping point? You might go, well, I want to play Joe this weekend, or I want to play Ilya, but they're going, well, I don't know, you're a bit 50-50. At what point, who takes charge at the end? Is it you?
Yes, they are always worried and give some warnings. And mostly I ignore them if I'm honest, and just pick the team. But of course I take into account what is necessary, and of course I am a bit more careful sometimes. But I wouldn't do anything stupid if a player has a major risk. For example, Isaac Schmidt was the case yesterday in the morning. They were a bit concerned because he felt unwell, and we need to do some testings. And everyone advised more or less like, "Oh man, makes no sense to take him in the squad." And of course, then I also I totally trust Henry and the medical team and our sports science, and I listen to them. Yes, but in the end, it's up to me to take the decisions. Also, like they of course support with some objective data. They support also with some opinions about the recovery status of the players. But in the end, yes, it's still my responsibility to take the calls. And if it doesn't work, so I can't blame them. So it's just me who is to blame.
But having been an ex-player yourself and now a manager for a long time with all sorts of players, and I suppose, are you quite attuned now to looking at a player in the eye and know when he's maybe not 100%, even though he might be saying he's 100%? Is that what it boils down to at the end of the day? Yes,
you need to learn this a little bit, because when I ask a player tomorrow, are you ready to go again? I have not one time experienced the players, no, I would like to sit on the bench. So they are always ready and feel recovered anyhow, but you also need this experience also to have an eye how they move in training, and yes, also sometimes a deep look in the eyes also helps, because mostly when I look deep in the eyes to someone, they don't lie anyhow. So for that, they can't really hide the truth. So it helps a bit, but in the end, it's still also sometimes a gut feeling what you need, and also you have a bit the tactical necessities in account what you do. So all the things come together to take then hopefully the best decision. We have rotated a lot during the season. Also sometimes difficult decisions to leave a player in red hot form out, like in the beginning of the season, Willie, or later on it was Daniel James or Mano Solomon. Yes, this time around, for example, we have opted not to rotate too much for this game, but it's always tricky, and you always try to be there with a good decision in order, yes, to be hopefully successful in the game, and we're trying the same also for Saturday.
A bit of old school fear for other managers, not a bad thing sometimes then, Daniel, I suppose.
That's right, yes.
Daniel, I've got to congratulate you, the fastest manager to 50 championship wins with a single club. You've done it in 83 games. That is a tremendous amount, and it's a very quick amount of victories. That has to be something you must be quite proud of. I know you've not won anything yet, but it's a tremendous achievement. to do that. And that must take a lot of effort on your part.
No, I'm just happy for my players and my staff, because I also know, and I'm pretty grateful that I know I work for a club where it's perhaps a bit easier to achieve such an achievement than for a club who is just promoted from League One into the Championship, for example, and also fantastic players, fantastic staff to work with. And if you have excellent players and excellent staff, then it's even sometimes difficult. For the manager to mess it up. So for that, all my thank you is to the players and to the staff. They are excellent, and even I can't avoid the success sometimes. So for that, it's great that we are in a good position and that we won many points. But all the credit goes to my players and the staff. They're doing an excellent job.
Then some interesting stats came up yesterday. It's 43 fouls since the yellow card's been given at Ellen Road, and I think it's the first time since 2008 that you've won 2 home games without a yellow card for either side at Ellen Road, which is unusual. What I'm asking is not so much about last night, but about sometimes you're the beneficiary as well. Like Jayden Bogle, there's a little tug on the player last night, and I know in the heat of the battle, and you don't get the offside goal and all that sort of thing, but sometimes you're the beneficiaries as well. So overall, do you feel that you are getting some decisions here and there, or do you still feel a little bit aggrieved?
I've come down a bit in comparison to yesterday evening, but if you have a look at the facts, anyhow, how many penalties should have been given, how many goals should have been allowed, anyhow, so I think we're quite often on the wrong side. It's of course also due to the fact that we create more chances and are more in the penalty box, and score perhaps also a bit more tight goals in terms of offside than the opposition does against us, anyhow, because we're quite often so dominant. So I know that's a fact, and if you have more or less 20 offside situations that could be judged, there could be more often a mistake. In comparison, there are 1 or 2 just against you that should be judged. But yes, also sometimes in terms of fouls against you, especially like in the opponent's box, there were so many penalty situations where I think it's clear and obvious and really a stonewall penalty, like against Daniel James, for example, in the last game. And sometimes you really wonder why it's not given anyhow, and it's a bit tricky. Overall, I like when the referee is a bit more careful in showing yellow cards or even red cards or yellow red cards anyhow, because I like when we're not too soft and we go a bit for it, and both teams, as long as it's not over the line, can also be really competitive and aggressive. And there are some duels, but also sometimes when you got the feeling, okay, there is one tactical foul after another, or we like a nasty tackle. For example, in the last game, there was a tackle against Ilya Melier. I don't ask for red cards anyhow, but I tell you what, in the German Bundesliga it would have been a straight red card, and here we're not even showing a yellow card. So sometimes it's really a bit borderline-ish. I like when there is a consistent rule, more or less like on both sides. So if you allow a bit more, then on both sides everything's okay. Or if you are a bit more stricter, then on both sides, and I'm also fine with it. But in terms of offside situations that are really clear and obvious to see, when there's a situation 3 yard no offside, and you have a good position, it should be given. And when there is a nasty tackle and everyone in the stadium can see this anyhow, I think then we also want to have the best referees in the world. If it's clear and obvious, it should be given anyhow. But overall, I don't complain too much about it. And also yesterday, I didn't complain at all about Dean, because it's up to his assistant to see if it's offside or not, and the referee can't be blamed for this. Or the same, like again, we had the same assistant in the Coventry game, and the referee can't be blamed for this because he also relies on good decisions from his assistant. So I know we have VAR at the moment, but I'm still a big believer that the decision making on the pitch has to be good, and if the decision making on the pitch is good, then normally it's also the fair outcome.
Last one for me, Daniel. Obviously the transfer window's closed and what have you, but your squad is fairly tight. But what about the free agent market? Is that something that you would still look at the moment, or do we just rule that out now till the end of the season?
No, makes no sense, because if a player is right now out since a few weeks or a few months, or perhaps like the summer, and then to integrate him till he's fit, the season is over. So if there is really like absolute emergency case, and I would trust all our academy products. They are quite often also in training, and they're edging closer. Thank God, touch wood, at the moment it's not a situation where we have to think about something like this, but in this case I would rather give a young lad a go instead of doing something crazy and mad on the free agent market, so it's not a topic for me.
Thank you. Daniel, Ilya Gruev started the last 5 away games, and I know at home normally Joe Rothwell starts. I know yesterday you said you have to manage Joe's minutes, but are there any other reasons why you tend to choose Ilya away from home over Joe?
Well, in general, at the moment, I think we still have to manage all our midfielders a bit carefully. I spoke about this for RO. He was excellent, especially in the second half yesterday, but he had also, like the game before, he looked not at his best at Portsmouth, for example. So again, his first season in English football, first time that he has to play more or less, or is involved at least in 46 game days. Joe Ross, we spoke about this, so the 2 years before he joined us, he hardly started the game on this level, or at least hardly had 90 minutes on this level. And for Ilya Gruev, who was a ever consistent player for us, but he was out with a long-term injury over 4 months, and for that, during this period, then you have to manage the load a bit, and then it's always a bit up also from the tactical point of view what you need a bit more. Yes, of course, in the home games, when we dominate the games, perhaps even a bit easier, then you are tempted a bit more like to bring a player in who is really good on the ball, good in possession, good in driving our game forward, like Joe. And when you face also sometimes also the wind in your face, and in away games, when there are more transition moments, when there's a game away, whatever, Watford, Coventry, when you think, okay, there's physicality also in the opponent's team, and also many transition moments, and you also need to add a bit more defensive awareness, and also sprinting back, and also good strength in defensive duels, and also in covered distance, and you go perhaps more for a player like Ilya who can cover this. But it's all about the whole balance of the team, and you also take a bit into account how the general setup is. So I spoke yesterday, that's important that you have on the number 10 position a player who can cover lots of distance, but we have also opted, for example, then sometimes to play with Joel Pirot, slightly deeper in the number 10 role, where he interprets the number 10 role a bit more like a second striker, and perhaps then you have to add even a bit more resilience on the 6 and the 8 position. So it depends always on the whole setup, what is necessary, and in order also to be successful in hopefully then the next game.
Thank you, yeah. And just on Ethan, I know you said he was 50-50 for the run-in. How's he getting along at the moment, and when do you expect to have more clarity over whether he will be available for the run-in or not?
Yes, rehab looks good at the moment. He's progressing. He's doing some work with our rehab coach Ruben on the pitch. Already also in football boots, not just running stuff, but also starts a little bit with the ball. And we have hope that on the other side of the international break, that he will join us in team training, and then yes, we will see how long he needs to be match fit. But if it's really the case, if he can join us pretty soon after the international break, back in team training, Ethan is normally a player who doesn't need too many sessions in team training to be ready to be involved for the games, and he could be there for the run-in for the last 5 or 6 games we will see. But of course, it would be a major boost if we would have our captain back. We spoke about the topic on the midfielder positions, but of course he's also an option in the centre back positions, and in general a pretty important player for us also in terms of leadership. It's always good when you have Ethan available, even as a player in the dressing room at the moment. He's quite often there and also motivates the lads, and he travels with us even to the away games to give some support, and I like it a lot. But of course it's better to have him there with boots and shin pads and a shirt, and available also on the team sheet, and hopefully this will happen also for the run-in.
Finally from me, just on the international break, just particularly in March, but also in the context of your season, the momentum as well, do you see it as a helpful rest and reset, or is it more of a hindrance for you?
I think just I have to learn to adapt to situations and not to overthink if it's beneficial or not anyhow. So for that, I have not too many strong thoughts. But overall, I think in terms of getting Ethan and also Patrick and also Max Wöber a bit closer back to the team, to team fitness. Obviously, Patrick is back in team training, more and more involved, but also for him, the 2 weeks of training will be pretty beneficial, and also to have Max and Ethan a bit closer to the team. Then I think just in this terms, it's beneficial. Of course, I hope that also the lads who will be involved in international games will come through without injuries and without major load. Sadly, the days of Alex Ferguson are over, who could just call the national team managers and say, no, listen, I'll keep my player. So sadly, I can't do this anyhow. I just can ask carefully sometimes for a little bit of help. But the days that you just could resist to send your players are sadly over. For that, you are, of course, a bit nervous that hopefully no one picks up an injury or is not involved with crazy load. But overall, I think it's beneficial for us, because there was also really lots of load for us as a group, and also like the mental pressure once you're involved in fighting against relegation, or like for us for promotion, is also a factor. And we had many games, emotional games, where we had to invest a lot. And I think it will be beneficial for us as a group to calm, at least in the first week, the load a little bit down, and then obviously also like to prepare then for a good run in. I think for us overall, hopefully, when there are not many injuries in the international terms, then it's definitely a beneficial situation for us. Thank you.